Hi everyone, my name is Bao Hoang. I am the founder and CEO of Rolled, which is a Vietnamese food brand in Australia. I'm the son of Vietnamese refugees, and I'm very honoured today to welcome you to the launch of a new report from Asialink Business and Beanstalk Agtech, Accelerating Agriculture, Australia's AgTech Opportunity in Vietnam. This report has been developed with the generous support of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. I'm currently in Melbourne, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm joining you today from the lands of the Wurundjeri people who have been custodians of this land for thousands of years, and acknowledge and pay our respect to their elders past and present. The outline of today's proceedings, we'll have first off Mr. Nguyen Duc Tung, General Secretary of the Vietnam Digital Agriculture Association. This will be followed by a panel discussion moderated by Lindley Howen from Beanstalk and involving David Davies, CEO and founder of Unity, Dr. Lyndall Hugo, founder and CEO of Orla, Lam Ding, international team leader at Viet Uc. We have simultaneous interpretation available for this session. You can turn it on using the button you will see on the Zoom on your bottom right. A reminder that this event is recorded, so please submit your questions online via the button for the Q&A session later. Guess why the focus on Vietnam now? The report launched today highlights the sheer scale of opportunity in Vietnam. Agriculture was Vietnam's third largest sector in 2020, accounting for 15% of GDP, generating over $56.3 billion in exports and employing 30% of Vietnam's workforce. The sector's unsustainable use of natural resources and slow technology adoption is impacting productivity and limiting its potential. There's pressure to upgrade their practices to remain competitive in international markets, protect livelihoods, and ensure sustainable growth. Agricultural technology, or AgTech, has the potential to transform the sector. AgTech refers to technology solutions that can be applied across the supply chain to improve food production through increasing yield efficiency, productivity, or the sustainable use of resources. So why is Australia a good partner for Vietnam? A shared commonality for Australia and Vietnam is the strength and focus of the agricultural sector in each nation. Australia is a top 5 global exporter by value of beef, lentils, sugar, wool, and wine. Australia also faces many of the same environmental risks that threaten Vietnam, such as climate variability, droughts, and water scarcity. Australia is globally recognised for its agricultural research and capabilities in AgTech-related sectors, such as genetics and data analytics, which underpin productivity and export competitiveness. I guess the key reportings, if you turn to the key reportings of the report being launched today, there's plenty of challenges that can be turned into opportunities. So some of the challenges are low productivity, poor supply chain integrity, and environmental pressures threaten the ability to capitalise on growing demand for high quality produce. AgTech companies that address these challenges by offering tailored solutions in sustainability, climate resilience, productivity, food quality, and safety can absolutely benefit from these opportunities. In Australia, there are now more than 300 startups, scale-ups, enterprises, a rich pool of accelerators and incubators, industry groups, and world-leading universities and research institutions in this space. Today, you will hear from our panelists who have practical advice and tips for other AgTech companies wishing to enter the Vietnam market. Their detailed experiences are also outlined in the report launched today. Firstly, I would like to introduce Mr. Nguyen Duc Tung, General Secretary of the Vietnam Digital Agriculture Association, or VIDA. VIDA is a pioneer in promoting digital transformation for Vietnam's agriculture. Mr. Nguyen has extensive experience in agriculture across academia and business. He holds a PhD from Columbia University. Welcome, Mr. Nguyen.
Please, anyone to hear in English, please to click to the right icon. Trước hết là xin thay mặt cho Hiệp hội Nông nghiệp số Việt Nam, và chúng tôi cũng bày tỏ được một cái sự tự hào rất là lớn khi mà được Asialink rồi Beanstalk mời làm đối tác tại Việt Nam để triển khai một cái dự án rất là quan trọng trong cái việc là thúc đẩy cái công nghệ, đặc biệt là hỗ trợ cho nền nông nghiệp Việt Nam trong cái xu hướng chuyển đổi số hiện nay rất là cấp bách và rất là nhanh. Thì, thưa các quý vị đại biểu cũng như là toàn thể các thành viên tham dự cho buổi gặp mặt ngày hôm nay, thì chúng tôi đánh giá đây là một trong những cái dự án rất là quan trọng trong cái việc là định hình lên được những cái mô hình công nghệ để mà thúc đẩy và đáp ứng được yêu cầu trong cái việc xây dựng một cái mục tiêu số hóa của nền nông nghiệp Việt Nam nói chung, và trong đó thì có rất nhiều những cái lĩnh vực cụ thể, ví dụ như trong lĩnh vực thủy sản, trong lĩnh vực trồng trọt, trong lĩnh vực chăn nuôi, và đặc biệt nữa là một trong những cái mà hạn chế nhất của nền nông nghiệp Việt Nam hiện nay đó chính là cái lĩnh vực chế biến và bảo quản. Thì chúng tôi cũng tìm thấy được những cái công nghệ rất là phù hợp. Trong thời gian qua thì dưới sự hỗ trợ trực tiếp của Đại sứ quán Úc cũng như là các tổ chức của Úc, đặc biệt là Asialink cũng như là Beanstalk, thì chúng tôi được tham gia rất là nhiều các cái chương trình, và trong mỗi một chương trình thì chúng tôi đều nhận thấy được cái vai trò rất là quan trọng, đó chính là cái việc là bên cạnh cái việc là tìm kiếm những cái công nghệ thì chúng tôi còn đón nhận được những cái chương trình hỗ trợ về mặt kỹ thuật, giống như là đào tạo, ví dụ chuyển giao công nghệ, rồi đặc biệt là những cái chương trình mà giúp cho chúng tôi tiếp cận với nông dân, tiếp cận với những chủ trang trại, và đặc biệt là tiếp cận với cộng đồng doanh nghiệp một cách nó chủ động hơn rất là nhiều so với cái thời gian trước đây. Cũng trên một cái nền tảng đó là sự hỗ trợ của chương trình, thì chúng tôi thấy được cái việc là đưa doanh nghiệp để mà hấp thụ được những cái công nghệ mới nó hiệu quả và nó thiết thực hơn rất là nhiều. Thì trong thời gian qua thì chúng tôi bên cạnh những cái dự án giống như là Grab chẳng hạn, thì hiện nay chúng tôi đang đồng hành cùng với Beanstalk rồi các tổ chức liên quan để đưa những cái công nghệ rất là tối ưu. Ví dụ như trong đấy chẳng hạn thì chúng tôi thấy có những cái dự án mà khi mà mới nêu ra thôi thì kể cả là nhà đầu tư cũng như là doanh nghiệp của Việt Nam rất là mong muốn được tiếp cận và đang trên cái chặng đường mà chúng tôi đang kết nối, nhưng mà chúng tôi thấy được cái sự háo hức của doanh nghiệp Việt Nam với cái cách làm mới, với cái định hướng mới, và đặc biệt là với cái giá trị mà công nghệ thông qua chương trình để mà mang lại cho nền nông nghiệp Việt Nam, thì chúng tôi thấy đây là một cái cách tiếp cận mới và cách triển khai công việc rất là mới. Thì VIDA là một hiệp hội nông nghiệp số Việt Nam có trách nhiệm nghiên cứu, thẩm định cũng như là xây dựng những cái công nghệ mới để tư vấn cho chính phủ cũng như là Bộ Nông nghiệp, và đặc biệt là cộng đồng doanh nghiệp về cái cách là tìm kiếm cái công nghệ phù hợp để đưa vào trong cái quá trình số hóa của mình. Bên cạnh đó thì VIDA cũng là một trong các thành viên ở trong cái ban chỉ đạo của chuyển đổi số của Bộ Nông nghiệp, có nghĩa là chúng tôi có trách nhiệm xây dựng một cái chương trình số hóa, và bên cạnh cái việc xây dựng đó chính là cái kế hoạch chi tiết để triển khai nó như thế nào. Rồi hàng năm thì chúng tôi cũng được sự hỗ trợ của các bên để chúng tôi xây dựng được cái báo cáo tổng quan về quá trình chuyển đổi số nông nghiệp Việt Nam. Thì đấy là một trong những cái thông tin cơ bản. Và một lần nữa thì chúng tôi thay mặt cho hiệp hội, thay mặt cho cộng đồng doanh nghiệp nông nghiệp Việt Nam nói chung, và đặc biệt là những cái doanh nghiệp mà đang hướng đến cái việc là tìm kiếm những cái công nghệ phù hợp, thì chúng tôi đánh giá rất cao cái chương trình của Asialink và Beanstalk đã giúp cho chúng tôi có được một cái cách tiếp cận hiện đại hơn, hiệu quả hơn, trực diện hơn, và đặc biệt là những cái công nghệ mà các bạn thông qua các chương trình, thì những cái công nghệ đấy là những cái công nghệ mà chúng tôi thông qua cái việc phản hồi từ cộng đồng doanh nghiệp thì chúng tôi thấy là những cái công nghệ rất là thiết thực, và đúng là những cái địa chỉ mà các cái cộng đồng doanh nghiệp của Việt Nam đang đi tìm và đang mong muốn tìm kiếm để đưa vào trong cái quá trình đẩy nhanh cái quá trình số hóa của họ, để cái sản phẩm nông nghiệp Việt Nam có thể tiệm cận được với những cái thị trường khó tính hơn một cách nó chủ động và hiệu quả. Một lần nữa thay mặt cho hiệp hội cũng như là thay mặt cho anh chị em doanh nghiệp nông nghiệp thì xin cảm ơn chương trình và chúc cho chương trình thành công, và trong thời gian sắp tới thì chúng tôi cũng rất là mong muốn là tiếp tục được trở thành một trong những cái đối tác tin cậy để đồng hành cùng với những cái dự án tiếp theo của Asialink cũng như là Beanstalk để hỗ trợ cho cộng đồng doanh nghiệp nông nghiệp Việt Nam. Và đặc biệt là chúng tôi có cơ hội được tiếp cận với những doanh nghiệp cũng như cái công nghệ của Úc nó chặt chẽ hơn và hiệu quả hơn. Xin trân trọng cảm ơn.
Hi everyone, and thank you Tung for that great insights and for sharing more about VIDA and the great work that you do. I'd also like to acknowledge that last week was the Mid-Autumn Festival in Vietnam, and I hope that despite the challenges of lockdown, everyone that is dialing in from Vietnam was able to celebrate that and spend time with their family. So we'll now be moving to our In Conversation session, where we'll be hearing from both Australian AgTechs that have entered into Vietnam and Vietnamese businesses that have leveraged Australian innovation, and talking about opportunities for collaboration between Australian AgTech and Vietnamese businesses. Before we start, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Nguyen Duc. I'll be moderating the panel today, and I work as a project leader at Beanstalk Agtech. So we've been lucky enough to work with Asialink Business on this report. And at Beanstalk, we're an innovation agency focused on bringing innovation to the agri-food sector. Our purpose is to unleash the potential of agriculture to be a leading force for good. We work across the APAC region and in Vietnam in particular through our GRAF program, where we're connecting global AgTech solution providers with critical challenges in the agriculture industry in Vietnam. So across this work and across developing this report, we've been lucky enough to meet with leading innovators who are both working in Vietnam or hoping to work in Vietnam and across the whole Vietnamese agricultural sector. So today we're going to hear from three of them on their unique experiences in Vietnam and learn a bit more about the challenges that they've faced, how they've overcome them, and a bit more about the opportunities that they've had in Vietnam. So on the panel with me today, I'm pleased to have David Davies, CEO and founder of AgUnity, Lyndall Hugo, CEO and founder of Orla, and Lam Din, Business Development Director and Executive Assistant to the Chairman at Viet Úc. So thank you, David, Lyndall and Lam, for joining me. And before we get into the questions, I'd love to hear a bit more about each of you and the work that you do. So maybe, David, if we start with you and AgUnity, can you please introduce a little bit about yourself and a bit more about AgUnity and your mission on enhancing financial inclusion for those in rural and remote communities worldwide?
Sure, thank you, Lindley. So what AgUnity does is actually really simple. We take very low-cost smartphones and we turn them into a relevant and useful tool for the very lowest income farmers in the world. And we do this all over the world, from Trinidad to Ethiopia to Papua New Guinea in 9 countries. We've been doing it for 5 years. We work with a lot of major NGOs like World Food Programme and USAID and GIZ, and also big commodity buyers like Fair Trade International that buy coffee and cacao out of these locations. What we do, like I said, it's really simple. We just turn a phone so it works in remote regions, it works offline, it's simple to use to people that might have low literacy or many of our farmers have never even owned a phone before. So this is the first phone they get. And what we concentrate on is improving their record keeping and improving trust, cooperation and transparency within groups of farmers. And those are simple concepts, but they actually have a profound effect. Some of our communities have within a season seen their income increase by up to 3 times just by cooperating more, not competing with each other, and thereby getting better prices and being able to get inputs a lot cheaper. So we've seen great improvement in the cooperation and productivity of the farmers. And then there was one thing that we really couldn't solve in all that. And this year we're working on solving that by the introduction of a digital reward token. And that digital reward token is called Agriet. I can see that we've put the QR code onto the screen, and I've just pasted a little detail into the chat that might make that easier. You can scan that code. What it does, it'll into your email, it'll give you a small amount of Agriet for yourself, and you can select one of our farmers. Sorry, they're in Ethiopia at the moment. We'll be adding farmers in Papua New Guinea in a couple of days, And one of the things I'm really hoping we can get out of this is we want to find a community of farmers in Vietnam so we can start extending this system to Vietnam. But if you log in using that URL and QR code, it'll give you some aggregate, which is a digital reward token, like a digital currency like Bitcoin. And it leverages the AgUnity community of phones that we've already got working with the farmers. You can send a small amount of aggregate to a farmer, and we do this with, say, people that buy coffee or people that want to encourage farmers to grow trees for carbon credits or be organic or things like that. There's a whole lot of ways that you can interact with farmers on the other side of the world and encourage them to do something that you personally care about. So I'd really hope that everyone would actually do that, because it's only $1 or so to you guys. Well, it's our money, but it's only $1 or so that we're giving you, but it actually is a lot of money to our farmers in Ethiopia. This will allow them to eat for a couple of days. It's a really important thing. So if everyone could please do that, it's really helping the farmers, and it also shows you what this digital reward token system could do that we're very proud of. We released it in Ethiopia already, Papua New Guinea next, probably Indonesia to follow. And like I say, if anyone has got communities of farmers that you think this system could work with, we'd love to talk to you after the event.
Thank you, David. And I also encourage everyone to get on the aggregate QR code and URL and make sure they donate through there. So next we have Lyndall. Lyndall, you co-founded Orla, and you're on an exciting journey in Vietnam about bringing clean, green, quality food, making it accessible to everyone. Can you share a little bit about yourself and Orla?
Okay, thanks, Lindley. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance today. For Orla, or for my background, I was educated in Australia and did my degree and PhD at the University of Sydney. My degree was in agricultural science and my PhD was in pesticide fate and transport and in the environment. Then after that, probably about 20 years in greenhouse gas emissions and greenhouse gas emissions abatement, mostly with mining companies. We moved to Vietnam in 2017 with an idea that we wanted to make an impact whilst making a really good business. So we developed some very high intensity vertical agriculture technology, and we have commercialized, or I guess developed that over the last 5 years. And now we are in every major supermarket chain in Vietnam. Before COVID, we were in the top 200 restaurants and hotels, and we have demand that we're literally, orders of magnitude greater than we can meet at the moment. We have net zero greenhouse gas residues, greenhouse gas emissions, zero residues on any product, for the last couple of years, over hundreds of tests. And we entered the market after developing the technology at the right price point. So, we're doing some really good social impact here as well, in just being able to provide such huge volumes of very clean food into a place where pesticide residues on food, unfortunately, it's almost a universal issue. So that's a bit about us, a bit about myself and the journey, and look forward to sharing more with you in the next hour or so. Thank you.
Thanks, Lyndall. And I think we have Lam back again. So Lam, did you want to share a little bit about yourself and VietOrg?
Thanks, Lindley. Hi, everyone. I'm Lam. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I'm here on behalf of VietOrg Seafood Group, or VietOrg Group. We are a leading aquaculture company in Vietnam, founded in 2001 by a Vietnamese Australian entrepreneur as an FDI company. We now engage in breeding, rearing, farming, and processing Pacific white shrimp, one of the key export products in Vietnamese aquaculture. We also have other businesses that we are developing for black tiger shrimp and charfish, also another two key products for Vietnamese export. We have been building fully integrated, fully traceable, and sustainable production systems for all of these species. And at the moment, we are the largest shrimp seed business, providing shrimp post-larvae to Vietnam with close to 30% market share. my role at the company as a business development director is to coordinate key research projects and managing strategic R&D partners to advance our integrated production system. And I also serve as the executive assistant to the group's chairman. So again, it's a great pleasure to be here with you all today, and I look forward to the discussions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. So as you can see, I'm joined by a very knowledgeable and diverse panel, all with unique experiences in Vietnam. So looking forward to continuing the conversation. Before I go on, I just wanted to remind everyone that we will have time at the end for Q&A. So please make sure that you add any questions that you have across our chat into the Q&A box only and not the general chat box. And we'll aim to answer as many as we can at the end of the session. So I'd like to start with discussing the various ways in which you've entered Vietnam, with either entering with your tech or, in Viet Duc's case, how you've brought tech into Vietnam and some of the challenges that you've experienced along the way. I know from our previous conversations that between you've all had different entries, from bilateral business support programs to partnerships to completely uplifting your life and moving to Vietnam. David, we'll start with you. I know that you're involved in the Mekong AgriTech Challenge, which has now evolved into the Graph Challenge. How important was it for you to solidify Ag's entry into Vietnam through one of these programs?
Yeah, look, it's always a challenge, you know, to enter any new market, particularly one where you've got different languages and cultures. And one of the most important things about particularly designing a smallholder farmer solution is it really needs to adapt to the needs of that particular community. So, you know, when we go into Ethiopia or Papua New Guinea, completely different story. And the only way to really understand what you're doing is to actually meet the communities and get out there with the farmers. Now, in a country like Vietnam, it's a lot of smallholder farmers. So you really need to go out into the Mekong and sit down and have dinner with rice farmers. And that's the way you learn what their real needs are. Not, you know, you'll get told a very different story by organizations. When you actually spend time talking around the farmers, I'll tell you something different. And so being able to immerse yourself in the culture is absolutely critical when you want to enter in, like, particularly a country where there's a lot of very small scale farmers. So we found that match initiative was fantastic for that. It introduced us to the organizations, but then we eventually went on out a tour. We went with a whole cooperative of rice farmers. We met the mill. We had dinner with the family. We understood all the problems. And then it also gave us the ability to, one of the things that we learned from COVID, and I encourage everyone to do this, is we hire a lot more people locally now that we can't travel. You know, we used to send people from Indonesia across to Ethiopia. Now we have made a much bigger effort to hire people locally, and having that initial person on the ground, one, isn't very costly. You know, normally your first couple of months cost you less than flying someone over anyway. Once you've got a good person on the ground, they've been very key to opening the doors. And these were all part of the pathway that these match initiative and everything else that followed it led us to.
Great, thank you, David, for sharing. And Lyndall, I know you chose a different path, but with a very similar sort of purpose around immersing yourself in culture. Having uplifted your life and moving to Vietnam, how important was it for you to spend time in Vietnam before you launched and scaled Orla?
I think it was critical. We had so many lessons that we had to learn. I think there's the perception that you're just coming to a different culture or a different country, but honestly, you're coming to a different world, and that's literally the truth. So for us, the first couple of years we went through, we came here, I come obviously from a very strong background in technology and commercialization and scaling. And so to come here and learn about all of the issues that, you know, were just different here. So, you know, it was just crucial. I guess we spent the first 2 years before we raised seed capital here really learning about how to do business, and the other thing is just how to survive. Whereas then we spent the next 3 years really grinding it out, trying to make the technology work. And every day was around about 30 lessons that we had to learn. So Vietnam is just it's so incredibly wonderful, but it is so, so different. And you just can't imagine that. And I just think, you know, the best thing that we ever did for the longevity of the company was that we effectively have sacrificed a lot of time coming here. And, you know, what might be perceived as a lot of sacrifice in our life. We've spent 5 years here now with basically no income. But we know that the company is going to be around probably for the next 50 years because we've done that. So I'll just say one thing: there are no shortcuts in Vietnam. Yeah. Get here and learn. You know, just learn as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, that's a great takeaway. And Lam, I know you have a different perspective again as an agribusiness in Vietnam, looking to bring global tech in. And Viet Uc, you've got a great example of an enduring partnership with long-lasting benefits with CSIRO. What's made this partnership be and continue to be so successful?
Thanks, Lindley. Our story is one of exemplary collaboration between the two countries. It is thanks to a unique situation that our chairman and founder was in, as he was a refugee coming to Australia from Vietnam in the 80s. I think there are a lot of over the past 20 years, a lot of things contributed to the successful collaboration between us and Australia, with the example of CSIRO, the premier research organization. But it started, I think it started at day one. One of the things that our founder and chairman made up his mind on was the need for what would make his business successful is not about how to operate the systems properly, how to manage the financials. He didn't, when he wanted to start this business in Vietnam, he didn't seek out the help of consultants or investment bankers or anyone like that. He went to the scientists, and he looks for the people in science who understand the basic underlying key drivers of a technology or a system, which is what Vietnam lacked at the time. So he went to find scientists, and he found one of the leaders in the research divisions for aquaculture in CSIRO. And that scientist took him around Australia, Thailand, other places around the world to learn about aquaculture, and he started building the business based on that, and started the strategic research collaboration with that organization, CSIRO. And so I think that was the first thing that needs to be in the mindset of the leader who built a successful business here in Vietnam, which is the business that we are in is very complex, dealing with biological systems in water, in the air, everything. So he made up his mind on the success driver of being making a connection between science and industry or commercialization. So he looks for very key game-changing and strategic knowledge and technology that has the potential to commercialize at large scale, and building that relation and building the business based on that. The scientists and the business operators have very different backgrounds and objectives and intentions, but very complementary if you can build the right model. And I think we built the right model, maximizing their passion, the scientists' passion for discovery and impact, and making good things for the humankind, and our strength of scaling and commercializing and making innovations to actually apply those pure knowledge in the industries that we work in. So I think that is the basis of of the successful collaboration between us. The relationship has been ongoing for more than, I think, 12 years now. And we keep signing contracts, we keep signing new project agreements and investments over the past 5, 6, 7 years with very, very significant expected impact on our business as well as the Vietnamese industry.
Thank you, Lam. Thanks for sharing. And I know from our other conversations as well, you've mentioned how important it is for a partnership to be built on trust. And I know, Lyndall, we've also spoken about building trust with local communities. So Lyndall, could you share a bit of advice for other Australian AgTechs who are entering Vietnam in terms of how to build trust with local communities?
Okay, thanks, Lindley. I use the word trust frequently because everybody says all that, you know, we're asked to tell our story very frequently now. And I can see it as this series of unrelated events or even chaos, but I tied them all together with this one word, trust. And, you know, we had to build trust with the local communities because when we first started, we would pay, when we first started scaling, we'd pay our wages every Friday because in cash, because they'd had the labourers out there in the community in Dong Nai province. They'd had a lot of businesses that had started out there and literally gone broke after a month or walked away, and we still see it now. And they didn't pay the wages after a month's work. So we had to pay them every week. Then they said, okay, you can pay us every fortnight, but in cash. Now you can pay us every month, but in cash. And then all of a sudden they said, yeah, we've actually got bank accounts and you can pay us in there. You know, that's just a silly example, but you can't really build that into a business plan. You know, you're going to end up with a payroll account or accounting system and you're going to pay people this amount of money and it's all going to be so smooth. Well, no, it's not going to be like that at all. Trust in our technology that we were going to be able to remain disease resistant, and nobody else in the world can do this, and we know. In the most, one of the most contaminated environments with the highest pest pressure, that we would never have to change our grow substrate, which meant that, and you know, and we'd be able to use such low energy, and we'd be able to create this zero residue food that after hundreds of tests and years, it would just be known that all our has no pesticide residues. Everything about this is, you know, I think when we built our seed business plan and that was funded, it was so shiny and it was so beautiful, and reality is not like that. And just one thing I know is that when you're building a startup, and because I've done a lot of time in commercialization, and I'd read every business plan about, you know, they're going to perfect this thing in Australia and then we're going to move to Asia, which is, and you know, we've got the headline numbers of 67 million burgeoning middle class in Vietnam, and it's the biggest opportunity. But the reality is, what I knew was that the competition, when you write a business plan, the competition isn't the same people who do the same as you, or the same people who do the same as you. It's a competition for that startup capital. And I knew that we were going to be the winners, or we were going to be competitive in obtaining startup capital if we got here and we did all of the dirty work first. And it was going to be incredibly painful, and it was 20 times as painful as I ever dreamt. But throughout that, and having the grit to get here and to do it and to keep getting up and falling over and keep getting up, you know, so now we work in an incredibly difficult environment. We have got the 50 most brilliant human beings who work for us, and we trust them and they trust us. Every major supermarket chain here trusts us to deliver zero residue food. The business plan can be as sparkly as it wants, but at the end of the day, you've got to get here and you've got to get really dirty. And, you know, it helps to be broken a lot because you just get back up and it makes you so much stronger. But trust is a really key thing, Lindley. It is just so important.
Yeah,
and it takes time. It like we've been here, we've been building all up for 7 years, for 5 years. Every single day is just, you just got to build another relationship, and it's based on trust. And And trust in the Vietnamese culture is completely and utterly different to trust in the Australian or the Western culture. So it's a good lesson. It's a good thing to learn.
Yeah, thanks. And I think it does come back to your comment at the beginning of there's no shortcuts.
Yeah.
Just about spending time. So continuing on this theme of some of the challenges that you've overcome, David, can you talk more about some of the regulatory challenges that you've encountered across your projects in different countries and what countries could do to make it easier to bring innovation to communities?
Yeah, look, and it's a great question actually, because we're operating in 9 countries now, and they all have very different regulatory landscapes. Like some of them, we have limitations even getting phones into the country, and we've been very fortunate that World Food Programme and others have helped us out with that. And I understand why countries do that. Like they all have their own needs, and when you're a developing nation, you've got to be careful that people are not bleeding money out of your country or bringing in substandard products and things like that. But it is very important for countries not to allow these regulations to be an impediment to things that can really help your community of farmers. And I think the best example, this goes back to my days working in investment banking. Singapore does this brilliantly. Anytime Singapore sees an opportunity, they create sandboxes. And most importantly, there's someone you can go to and talk to. Like if you're doing a financial product, you can go to MAS and you can talk to them and you can tell them what you want to do, and they'll genuinely listen to it, assess whether there's a risk, and then give you a sandbox to play in. Like, well, we'll let you do this for 1,000 farmers, or we'll let you do this, not farmers in the case of Singapore, but they'll let you give it a try. And one of the things we notice in particularly some of the bigger emerging nations is they don't really have anywhere you could go from. It's a very large question as to how you get through the path of finding someone. And then when you do find them, it goes to a committee and there's a lot of decisions and it's probably going to go nowhere. So I think the most important things and take away from nations is just to create that infrastructure where there's someone you can talk to and say, like, look, we want to help out farmers. We want to get phones into their hands. We're not making money out of them. Can we just, let a couple of thousand phones in the market and then you can survey the farmers and see how it goes? Or can we enable some reward system to happen in your country? And if it works out well, we'll expand it and you can put in a regulation and we'll work around the regulation so that the good companies that are trying to do these innovative things don't get hampered by regulations that are really not intended for us. Like most of the regulations are intended for banks that are going to try to take money overseas and stuff, but they often do impede a wider range of communities than they were originally intended to do. I just before we go, I want to really back up what Lyndall said. I mean, the major thing AgUnity does in our communities is around trust. And when we first started AgUnity, it was at a hackathon, and after we'd won the hackathon, we had Costa Peric from Gates Foundation come up to us, and he couldn't, this is Gates Foundation emphasizing that same point. The most important thing in changing smallholder farmers' lives is around that trust and cooperation. And that's what they'd found. And he explained some stories and explained how important he thought what we were doing. And it very strongly backs up what Lyndall just said, that trust is the key thing. And it's very different in every country and very hard. It's a very important path. And for any company entering, that's the main thing you have to do. You have to be there for the long term, do everything you say,